Welcome back. Here's take 2 to answers to the practice quiz. Questions 1 through 10 are more or less matching. Let's go through them. This organelle gets rid of toxins. That's going to be the smoothie R, or choice D. The next one, this organelle makes ribosomes. It's actually kind of like part of an organelle, and that's the nucleolus, AC, that's responsible for that activity. Number 3, the organelle that directs cell activity is going to be the nucleus. The organelle that's responsible for making ATP, that was a latecomer on there. It's AE, the mitochondria. You may not see that on the Microsoft Word version, but just realize that's the case. Number 5, cells which export a lot of materials would have an active one of these. There's probably maybe a couple answers you could try to nail down, but there's the one that's the best answer is A, the Golgi body, because remember that's responsible for exporting materials out of the cell. Okay, so just because you make something in the rough ER, it may not necessarily, it may just get incorporated into the cell membrane. But anything that goes through the Golgi body is most likely going to leave the cell or be part of a lysosome. Number 6, this makes proteins. That's going to be the ribosome, choice AD. Even though like the rough ER makes proteins, the thing on the rough ER that's making proteins are the ribosomes. So, number 7, this is found in plants only. You would have said AB for chloroplast. 8, cells that eat other cells would have a lot of these. It's going to be lysosomes. Keep in mind those lysosomes have, they're packaged with enzymes. They're going to meet up with whatever's coming in, and they're going to break it down. Number 9, this contains a lot of DNA. That's going to be the nucleus, B. And then number 10, this is responsible for making sugar from light energy. That's AB, the chloroplast. Going on to questions 11 through 13. Phospholipid bilayers are semi-permeable. What does that mean to be semi-permeable? Okay, so allowing everything to come across, you're not being selective at all. Allowing nothing to come across, once again, you're not being selective. You're just like nothing gets across. You don't let some things through and some things not. C, allowing some things to come across. That seems like a good idea. And then none of the above doesn't really, it's not working because A through C pretty much, I think they're getting most of our options. So that's D is just a filler. It ends up being C to number 11. Number 12, which of the following substances would need a protein to facilitate its diffusion across the membrane? Water does not need a protein to facilitate that. Steroids don't. Oxygen gas won't. A through C are all examples of things that are allowed to diffuse across the membrane. But ions, on the other hand, they will not cross the membrane unless we have something else in place, and that would be facilitate like a protein to facilitate that and facilitate a diffusion, like an ion channel. Number 13, if a cell was dropped in pure water, which way would that water flow? So pure water is going to be hypotonic to the cell, and that means that there's so much water on the outside versus on the inside of the cell, and you're going to have a net flow into the cell. That is answer A. 14, which of the following would pertain to a pump? It doesn't need energy. It can move against diffusion. Needed for water is one of the many modes of passive transport. Okay, so A and D are pretty much the same, right? So you can eliminate both of them because a pump is active transport. B tells us that we can move substance against diffusion or against a concentration gradient, and pumps can do that. So the answer is B. And by the way, C, water will diffuse right across the membrane. Pump isn't needed. So answer is B for number 14. Number 15, which of the following processes would a cell use to get another cell inside of it? We have the options of facilitated diffusion, endocytosis, exocytosis, or pumps. Okay, so right off the bat, A and D, these are not large enough to bring in things that are other than like ion size. Okay, cell is much larger than that. So that leaves us with endo and exocytosis. Endocytosis is coming in, exocytosis is leaving, like exiting. So the answer is B, endocytosis. Number 16, which process would use a cell to secrete a protein? All right, once again, facilitated diffusion, it's too small. Endocytosis, that's bringing things in. Exocytosis is bringing things out, and it's at the bulk scale, which protein follows. Pumps, we're only talking about ions for pumps. So the answer to this is C, exocytosis. 17, which process would be used to get rid of excess sodium in a cell? You said pumps. Final answer. All right, so pumps, we're getting the sodium out of there. Facilitated diffusion may or may not work. Endocytosis and exocytosis, it's bulk scale. So it's D. This is the name for an environment that has a concentration of solutes that are the same as a cell. That's isotonic. Iso means equal. And then 19, this is a name for an environment which has more solutes dissolved in it versus a cell. Okay, that's going to be hypertonic, all right? Hyper means like more stuff versus hypo meaning less. So a good example of hypertonic is like salt water versus hypotonic, which is like pure water. So the answer to number 19 is A. So on to the short answer. Liver cells process incoming food, and they can take care of undesirable chemicals that are entering our body. Pancreatic cells process the amount of sugar in our blood and secrete insulin, which signals the cell let in sugar. White blood cells devour foreign cells in our bodies. The job of muscles are to contract. Which one of these would have the most endoplasmic reticulum? What would have the most mitochondria? And what would have the most smooth ER? And why? So this is one of those things where you could probably say any answer, but you're getting judged on your justification. So for instance, if I'm saying rough endoplasmic reticulum is going to be in the pancreatic cells, I'm going to justify that by saying that the rough ER is making a lot of insulin, which is getting secreted. Anything that's made in the rough ER is either going to be secreted or it's going to be incorporated in the cell membrane. All right. So since the pancreatic cells are doing a lot of that, that's going to make it have a lot of rough ER. If I were to say that it's a muscle and the muscle has a lot of protein inside of it, that would be wrong, because the muscle cells, while they do have a lot of proteins inside, the rough ER does not make that. Okay. So which type of cell would have the most mitochondria? That would be a good one for the muscle cell, because muscles are very active. They need a lot of ATP to contract and to constantly keep moving. So you could argue that that's muscle cell. Which one would have the most smooth ER? To me, one of the obvious ones is the liver cell, because the liver cell is in a little bit of a toxic environment, and that's why the materials in the body get sent there in the first place. So since it's a little bit toxic in there, it's going to need that smooth ER to continue to detoxify that sort of stuff. So those are some possibilities for short answer number 1. Short answer 2. This one's a tough one. I'm glad we see it on the practice test, right? Cell dies, stays completely intact, but it's not metabolically active. You notice that large ions are entering the cell. What's causing that and why? Well, first of all, if it dies and it's not metabolically active, it's not doing active transport. That's not a possibility. So right there, we eliminate all of active transport. We have passive transport here. Okay, so our options with passive transport are diffusion, osmosis, and facilitated diffusion. Okay, so since it's an ion, it's not diffusion. since it's not water, it's not osmosis. That leaves us with facilitated diffusion. All right. Why? Don't say it's process of elimination. Say because with a channel protein or facilitated diffusion, ions can enter the cell, and you don't need to be metabolically active. You don't need ATP for that. All right. That's number 2 in a nutshell. All right. Short answer number 3. Where's the outer membrane? I'm just going to circle it with the my pointer. Stroma is the fluid in here. Granum and thylakoid are these things. What is it? It's a chloroplast. What's it do? It takes light, makes chemical energy. Similarities between plant and animal cells. Similarities. They both have nuclei. They have rough ER. They have smooth ER. They have mitochondria. They have cell membranes. They have ribosomes. All right. That's not bad, right? Differences. We'll focus on what plants have and animals don't. Plants have a cell wall. Plants have chloroplasts. Plants have a large central vacuole. One of the things that we really didn't go over that animals have that plants don't is this thing called the centriole, but really I haven't gone over it. So